In a small village nestled between mountains and rivers, there lived a young man named Arun. Arun was unlike most of the villagers, where others sought fame and recognition. Arun remained humble and reserved, choosing to walk the quieter path. He was not one to make grand speeches or boast about his skills. Instead, he believed in hard work, patience, and allowing his actions to speak louder than any words could. Arun's demeanor often caused the villagers to overlook him. Many assumed he lacked ambition or courage, but they could not have been more wrong. Arun held a quiet strength within him, persistence that was unshakable. While others rushed through life chasing fleeting applause and temporary glory, Arun spent his days observing, learning, and steadily working toward his goals. The crisis hits. One year, the village faced an unprecedented crisis. The rains failed to come, leaving the river dry, the wells empty, and the fields barren. The crops began to wither, and with them, the hopes of the villagers. Livelihoods were at stake, and desperation crept into every corner of the village. Meetings were called in the village square. Crowds gathered to discuss solutions. But instead of finding unity, the discussions turned into heated arguments. Some blamed the village elders for not foreseeing the drought. Others pointed fingers at neighboring villages, accusing them of using too much water. The air was filled with anger and frustration, but no solutions emerged. In the midst of this chaos, Arun remained silent. He didn't join the debates or add to the noise. Instead, he quietly observed the situation. Arun knew that arguments wouldn't bring water to the fields, nor would blaming others save the crops. Action was needed, and he was determined to find a way. Arun's quiet efforts. Arun began his journey by studying the land. Each day, he walked miles, examining the dried riverbed, the distant hills, and the patterns of the clouds. He visited the elders, asking them about ancient water preservation techniques. He listened intently to their stories of how the village had survived past droughts, taking mental notes of every detail. One day, Arun disappeared into the hills, armed with nothing but a shovel, a pickaxe, and a few simple tools. He began his work. Many villagers scoffed at him. "What does he think he's doing?" they said. "One man can't solve a problem this big." But Arun didn't let their doubts deter him. Day after day, he worked tirelessly from sunrise to sunset. He dug shallow trenches near the base of the hills, redirecting tiny streams toward the fields. He placed stones and clay to build makeshift barriers, slowing the flow of water so the soil could absorb it. The work was grueling, and progress was slow, but Arun remained focused. The miracle unfolds. At first, his efforts seemed small and insignificant. The villagers continued their arguments and waited for a miracle, unaware that one was quietly unfolding before their eyes. Weeks turned into months. Then, one morning, something incredible happened. Tiny streams of water began to flow through Arun's trenches into the fields. The dry, cracked soil started to show signs of life. Shoots of green emerged where there had been nothing but despair. The villagers, astonished, gathered to see what had happened. "Who did this?" they asked, their voices filled with wonder. When they learned it was Arun, they were stunned. The man they had overlooked, the one they had doubted, had single-handedly brought water to their fields. A lesson for all. "How did you do it?" one elder asked. "And why didn't you tell anyone?" Arun smiled humbly and replied, "I didn't need to tell anyone. I just needed to act." Success doesn't come from loud words or big promises, it comes from quiet effort, patience, and determination. I couldn't control the rain, but I could control what I did with the resources we had. The villagers were deeply moved. They realized that while they had wasted time arguing and blaming others, Arun's quiet persistence had saved their crops and, ultimately, their livelihoods. From that day forward, Arun was no longer overlooked. The villagers sought his advice, and his quiet wisdom became a guiding light for the community. But Arun remained the same humble man, focusing on his work and letting his actions speak for themselves. Legacy of Arun's work. Years passed, and the village flourished once again. The river flowed freely, the crops were abundant, and the wells were full. The villagers never forgot Arun's efforts. The elders often gathered the younger generation under the shade of the large banyan tree in the village square. There, they would recount Arun's story, the tale of how one man's silent determination had transformed their future. They called it the art of quiet success.